After managing millions in ad spend over the last few years, I've actually found that some of the most valuable and surprising lessons that I learned was something I never saw on YouTube or learned in a course or from any of the consultants or mentors that I worked with. A lot of these lessons I only learned from actually trying, failing, and testing a lot of different strategies. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 most valuable and surprising lessons that I learned through managing multiple 7 figures in ad spend. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Oli. Over the last 6 years, I've been pretty much living and breathing meta ads on a daily basis, been managing Facebook ads for businesses all over the world, having multiple awesome success stories, and I'm constantly testing and learning new stuff. And meta ads is constantly changing and the marketing landscape is evolving. So this YouTube channel is just where I share my lessons and learnings for free with you guys. So if you want to see more of that, make sure you subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's get into the 5 lessons. The first lesson is regarding the attribution setting. So a lot of advertisers totally get this wrong, and there's many times I've actually audited ad accounts and see that the business is running with the wrong attribution setting. And often when I talk to business owners, they don't understand the attribution setting. They really don't understand how it affects targeting and how it affects your whole account. So that's the first lesson I'm going to get into. Lesson number 2 is regarding cost controls. So the bid strategy that you use on your campaigns, essentially telling Meta how to bid on your campaigns for you, is extremely important if you care about profitability. And I would say most businesses, they want to be profitable. So here I'm going to show you a very practical example of how we took one brand from 5 to 7 figures in just 1 year by using cost controls. And this scaling was all profitable, okay? Bootstrapped and 100% profitable. So I'm going to show you that. I also have multiple other success stories using cost controls. And the reason why it's so important is because, again, if you care about profitability, you can't just give Meta a daily budget and tell it to spend it, okay? You need to tell them that you need a certain cost per result or a certain ROAS, but it's not that straightforward. So I'm going to get into that lesson right there because that's been a huge one for me and my clients. Lesson number 3 is going to be how to properly do creative testing by using Meta's new machine learning system. So Meta's algorithm and their machine learning has been updated many times, but recently it's heavily supporting creative diversity and testing a lot of creatives. But you actually need to understand how the new algorithm works to be able to use this properly. So I'm going to show you a concrete example of how you can do that for your business. Lesson 4 is showing you how to do creative testing and how we do it for clients to get amazing results, and specifically how to think about iterations versus what we call big swings. So we're going to get into that. For lesson number 5, I'm going to show you our evergreen system and how we're able to run with campaigns for years at a time without turning them off and get compounding results. And specifically, I'll show you here as well how we took the same brand from 5 to 7 figures by having the same campaign turned on for a very, very long time and experiencing compounding results, and how you can do the same for your business. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so I'm now inside my example ad account, and I'm now going to show you what the attribution setting actually is if you're not familiar with it. Let's say we're going to create a new sales campaign. I'm going to choose sales because you always want to tell Meta exactly what you want. You want to put that as the objective. So don't put add to carts or engagement or anything else except what you actually want. Same thing goes for leads campaigns. Don't optimize for leads, optimize for qualified leads. Problem is, if you optimize for leads, you're probably going to get the cheapest leads, but that also means they're probably not the leads that are going to convert. So we need to tell Meta what we want, or at least as close to what we want as possible. So let's get into it. So this is the campaign. I'm not going to give it a name, okay? So I'm going to keep the budget at the campaign level here, and then I'm going to go into the ad set, okay? So we're not going to change anything else here. Now, what you will see is after you set up the conversion events, for me, this is an example account, so I don't have my active events set up, but let's just say this one, okay? Invite the meeting scheduled, okay? So for me, getting meeting scheduled from agency would be what I want to optimize for. For you, it's probably sales if you do eCom, or qualified leads if you do lead gen. So next thing we're going to do is look at the attribution model. And this is the main lesson that I want to start this video with, because so often I see businesses run with the wrong attribution model. So what you want to do here is you want to show more settings. And then you can see here that we have the attribution setting. Okay. Here we can select how we attribute sales to the campaign. So in essence, what this means is on top here, we have click through 7 days. That just means that if a person clicks on an ad and converts within 7 days, that conversion is going to be credited to the campaign only for click. Now under the click attribution, we have the engage view attribution, and it says for videos only here, but if we hover over the information section here, we can see that it also goes for images, but only if the image is visible on at least 50% of the screen for 2 seconds, okay? And for videos, you will get an attribution within 1 day here if the video is played for at least 10 seconds or 97% of its total length if the video is shorter than 10 seconds, okay? So the main point here is set to 1 day view. So essentially the difference here is that the campaign can still get credit credit for a sale, even if nobody clicked on the ad, okay? They might have just had the ad in your feed or had the video played in their feed. But this doesn't mean that they actually paid close attention to the video. And the view attribution doesn't mean that they made any action on the ad itself. And that is going to be quite risky for some types of businesses, which I will get into now. Now, the view through attribution is similar to engage view, but it's different in the way that it doesn't really matter how long people had your ad in their feed. And it doesn't matter if they watched the video for, a split second or 10 seconds. It doesn't matter, okay? As long as the ad was in their feed and they went and purchased or converted within one day, then the campaign is going to get credit for that. Now, the problem here is for some businesses, these two attribution types are not going to be helping your business get more sales. Now, the key lesson I've learned is that sometimes these two attribution settings can really hurt the performance of your campaigns. So let me show you now how we helped the e-commerce business add $26,000 in profit in just 60 days without increasing ad spend by fixing their attribution setting. So as you can see, we increased profit by almost 30% and the profit margin increased by 50% by us making this change. So when we took over this ad account, I went in and I did an incremental audit. That just basically means I'm looking at where the sales are coming from in terms of the attribution setting itself. And as you can see here, most of the results for the campaigns were coming from the one-day view attribution. And very few of the results, percentage-wise, was coming from the 7-day click attribution. As you can see, the bottom campaign here had 25 sales coming from just the view attribution, but only 2 of them were coming from the click attribution. And they thought they had a really good ROAS and the results looked good in the ad account, but on the back end, their actual profit was hurting. So when I did the breakdown of their ad account, and I found that so many of their sales were going to the view attribution, as you can see, more 60% were going to view attribution and only 40% were going to the 7-day click. That was a big red flag for me. Now, a key thing to mention here is that this business has a very reoccurring business model. So a lot of their customers will come back again and again and do a lot of repeat purchases. And what I saw happening was that a lot of the sales that the campaigns got was just credit from existing customers coming back. And the account essentially had started optimizing towards putting the ads in front of people that are likely going to come back and do repeat purchase. That didn't really mean that they needed to see those ads to come back, okay? So that's the big red flag that I saw. And when we switched over to optimizing for 7-day click and not optimizing for one-day view, you can see that all of a sudden we get way better distribution. So now we have 60% of the results going to 7-day click and 40% going to one-day view. And this made their bottom line a lot better. The reason for that is instead of wasting unnecessary ad spend on existing customers that are going to come back regardless, we spent our money actually going out there to get us new customers that actually need to see ads in order to come in and make a purchase. And that is how we were able to improve the bottom line. Now, the results in the ad account looked worse because now we're not getting credit for existing customers anymore. And it's harder to convert new customers. But because it's such a reoccurring business model, this made the bottom line way better. And that's what we actually care about. So in conclusion, if you have a business model that is very reoccurring, okay, you have a lot of customers coming back and you're not excluding existing customers from your top of funnel campaigns, then be very mindful of how you choose your attribution setting. Now, Meta has also introduced a new attribution model, which is called incremental. Now, if I select incremental, I can't go in and change based on 7-day click or anything like that. And this is something we're currently testing with. So what you could be doing is optimizing just for 7-day click. The downside of doing that is that you're not going to get the benefit of having the one-day view data to the campaign. And as we know, when Meta has more data to work with, it performs better. So of course, there's going to be some downsides by having less data. And it depends on your business as well. If you're not really getting sufficient data without the one-day view, then quickly changing to only 7-day click might be a big shock for the whole algorithm and how your campaigns optimize. So in that case, it could be a good idea to just make sure that you add the exclusions for how you target so that you force your campaigns to go out and get you new customers. So an example, you could just go in and you set up an existing customer list. You can do that with Klaviyo to make sure it's always updated. If you do eCom, essentially it's very important that list is always updated, okay? So you can go here, we can further limit the reach, switch setup, okay? And then you can go to custom audiences, add exclusions, and then you can put in your customer list if you have one, okay? So if you have existing customers, I don't have that here, but we could do that, okay? So you can put in existing customers, make sure that that customer list and that audience is always updated, and then make sure you always exclude existing customers. And that way, we are essentially forcing Meta to go out there and get us new customers instead of just taking credit for the repeat purchases that are coming into our business. So if you want to actually be able to see where your results are coming from, you can go to columns, and then you can go all the way down to compare attribution setting. Now, what we can do is we can look at 7-day click and one-day view and one-day engage view attribution. So if you have all of these 3 selected for your campaign, I would advise you to check all of them, click apply, and now let's have a look at your results. What we can see here is that most of the results for these campaigns we're optimizing are coming from from the 7-day click, all right? Some of them are coming from 1-day view. The percentage distribution between 7-day click and 1-day view is looking pretty good. And that's exactly what we want for this business. So if you are worried that Meta is wasting your budget, go in and actually see where the results are coming from. Now, another thing you can do, as I will now show you in this example ad account here, is that you can go to breakdown, and then you can go to demographics, then you can go to audience segments. Now, if you don't have audience segments set up yet, you should first go and set this up and then wait for the data to populate. But essentially what you can do here is break down and see where results are coming from for your campaigns. So we can see if it's coming from new audience, so new customers, existing customers, or engaged audience. Now, how you define these different segments is up to you. Of course, existing customers would be based on your updated customer list, but the engaged audience you can define yourself. So it could be based off people that have already been to your website, already follow you on Instagram, or anything like that. And then you can see where the results are coming from and better understand if your campaigns are actually doing what you want them to do. Do you want them to go and find you new customers? Well, in that case, you want to see most of the results going on new audience. If you want it to be a retention campaign for existing customers, then of course that would be the only thing you want to see. And if it's a retargeting campaign for warm audience, then you would definitely make sure that most of the results are coming from engaged audience. And then you would exclude everything else so that it doesn't go and overlap with your top of funnel campaigns or your retention campaigns. So I highly recommend setting up audience segments to be able to do this breakdown. Now, lesson number 2 is bid strategy, okay? So if you are not familiar with the bid strategy, I'm now going to show you what that is. So as you can see on this campaign here, under bid strategy, we are here using cost per result goal. But by default, it's going to be highest volume. So if I were to go up and set up a campaign, click sales, continue, and then you go down under budget, and then you have campaign bid strategy. You can see by default, Meta is using highest volume or value for this account. That means that based on the daily budget, you are just telling Meta, hey, this is how much I want to spend on average on a daily basis. Just give me the highest amount of volume of sales or conversions or value of those conversions as possible. Now we can also optimize for a couple other things. So cost per result goal, where you actually tell Meta to give you a certain cost per conversion. In that case, when you select the cost per result goal and you go into the ad set, you will put in the goal here. So if you go to cost per result goal under here, you will see that you can put in the amount, how much you want each conversion on average to cost you. Now there's also other bid strategies you can use. ROAS goal is another one. So if you want the highest value possible on the first order that you get in from Meta, then ROAS goal would make more sense. And then you do the same thing, put in the ROAS goal, go to the ad set, and then in the bottom of the conversion selection here, you go to ROAS goal and you put in the ROAS you want. So if you want 2 per ROAS, put in 2, right? And this will be what you're now optimizing for. And this is essentially what cost control bid strategies are. We're controlling the cost of the conversions that we get in or the ROAS that we're getting on average. Now, the reason why you want to use cost controls is, of course, to protect your profitability. So you might ask yourself, why isn't every business using this? Well, it's not actually that straightforward to use. Now, the thing is, if you're setting a goal that is a little bit too optimistic and Meta's predictive modeling isn't able to really believe that it can get you that cost per result goal on average or that ROAS on average that you want, then what's going to happen is that the campaign is just not going to spend as much of your daily budget as you probably want. And the volume of sales or results that you're getting in is going to be very limited. So the thing is, you need a lot of historic data and data coming in on a consistent basis in order to use cost control bid strategies. So my rule of thumb is, if you want to start testing it out, make sure you have at least 50 conversion events for that campaign per week. When you have that, Meta's ability to predict the future and understand if it should bid on certain impressions for you or if it should not is going to be much better. And Meta is then going to be much better at actually being able to get you that target cost that you want without you losing too much of your volume. So what it looks like when you start using this, and this is how we scale this campaign here. So if you look at the last 30 days and you look at the amount spent, you can see that some days here we're spending a lot more than other days. It's like we have these crazy peaks and then we have these pretty low days where we're not spending a lot of budget at all. The reason for that is when we set a target like this, we're pretty much forcing Meta to only spend when it thinks it can get us the profitability that we want. So in this case, the cost per result that we want. So if it's a weekend when cost of advertising for the audience that we're targeting is higher than normal and the predictive modeling of Meta doesn't think we can get conversions at our desired cost because of the cost of advertising that weekend, then it's going to reduce how much we spend that weekend to just protect our profitability. But on the other side of things, let's say we have a couple of days, like for example, this peak right here, August 23rd, when Meta sees a lot of potential because maybe the cost of advertising that day is a lot lower and we have a lot of potential to capitalize on that. In that case, Meta has the ability to go in and get us a lot of conversions that day. Now, this is only going to work if you have a very high daily budget set on the campaign campaigns. As you can see here, we have a very high daily budget compared to what we're actually spending. And the reason for that is we want to allow Meta to go and capitalize, and we don't want to limit the available daily budget if it thinks it can get us a lot of conversions at that cost that we're happy with. So that's essentially the benefit of cost controlled bid strategies. When you're getting up to volume and you're getting consistent conversions coming in on a weekly basis, I would highly recommend looking into start testing by either using the cost per sold goal or the ROAS goal. Be able to capitalize on great periods, but also protect profitability on worse periods. Now, lesson number 3 is probably something you already heard, but the new way to target using Meta is with the creative itself. Now, I spent a couple hours really breaking down this article from Meta. Okay, so Meta Andromeda, that's essentially the new machine learning system of Meta. And this article was posted in the end of 2024, and it's now been rolled out on the platform itself. So this is the new way the machine learning works. And essentially, after digesting all of this, and without you having to go in and really digest all of this advanced stuff, what is relevant for us is really understanding what it means to us as advertisers. And the way the new machine learning system works is that it's way better at matching ad with end users. So a person on Facebook or Instagram. So if you give Meta way more assets to work with, like way more ads and way more different type of ads, then you're going to be able to tap into a broader range of people within your broad audience. So if you want to be able to take advantage of this update, you need to do as following. So this is the structure that we use for our top of funnel evergreen campaigns. So number 1, we have a scaling campaign on top here. And within the scaling campaign, we only have the best performing ads, okay? So this is an advantage sales campaign. It has just one ad set that is broad targeting, but excluding existing customers. And then within this ad set, you can have up to 50 ads. Now, the point there is we only want to put in the winning ads, the ones that are already proven from this other campaign here, which is the testing campaign. Now, this is a CBO campaign. And every time you want to test a new set of ads, so a new concept, a new format, let's say you do a batch of ads with a new creator, that is going to be a new ad set. So the targeting here is also going to be broad, but again, excluding existing customers. And within here, there's no limit to how many ad sets you can have, but over time, you will of course turn the ones off that aren't performing. And within each of these ad sets, you will have about 4 to 6 ads, but you can go all the way up to 10 and maybe 20 ads per ad set. Now, the reason we do 4 to 6 is because that is the sweet spot of how we're able to maintain the quality of the ads, because it doesn't make sense to, have 10, 12, 15 ads if most of them are really low quality. But we're also able to launch new ads every week for our clients. Now, the important thing here, if you want to be able to take advantage of how the new algorithm works, is that you want to launch things that are very different from what you have tested before. So our rule of thumb is we want to have 50% of the new things that we launch, the new ads that we launch, to be iterations. So it will be iterations of the best performer or the best performing ads in our ad account. But the other 50% is going to be big swings. So over time, when running this campaign, you will start to find winning ads. And that is, it's hitting your target CPA, cost per acquisition, cost per sold, or it's hitting your target ROAS, and it has volume of spend, okay? So we don't want to promote any winning ad that hasn't proven that it can perform at scale. So at least at the top 15, 20% of the spenders within this campaign. If it is hitting your target and it has that volume, then the next thing we're going to do is promoting this ad into the scaling campaign. Now, you also want to make sure that you keep the ad active in here after promoting it. It's no issue of having this ad active in 2 campaigns at the same time. And then you want to make sure you also duplicate the ad idea to keep the social engagement when you promote it into the scaling campaign. So I've made a separate video showing you step by step exactly how we use this structure. The link to that video is going to be in the description of this video, so you can go check it out. But essentially what happens over time is that we have a bunch of winning ads that are proven, and they're tapping into different segments of our audience, okay? So what we see with some accounts when we start having multiple different winners in the scaling campaign is that because of how different these ads are, you're tapping into different parts of your audience. So one ad might be tapping into women 65 plus, while another ad might be tapping into a totally different persona. Maybe it's guys that are 30 or below, right? So depending on what you're selling, of course, some of the benefits of that product or some of the issues that people are having that your product solves is going to be different depending on their persona. So when you have a bunch of creative diversity, Meta's new algorithm is now able to match these ads with the relevant part of your audience. So we're able to scale by having a lot of creative diversity, because now the algorithm has so much more assets to work with. And that is how we're tapping into the power of how the algorithm works. Now, if you have that creative diversity and you have a cost control bid strategy on this campaign, then you will protect your profitability and you will allow Meta to go and find you those conversions at that target cost that you want within all of these available segments within your broad audience. And that's essentially how you scale in 2025 and going into 2026. Now, as you can see in this example ad account for one of our clients, this is exactly what we're doing. So we have the scaling campaign here with a very high daily budget and a cost per sold call. And then we have have the creative testing campaign here. Within this campaign, every time we have a new batch, we put it into this campaign and we just let it run until we have sufficient data to either find winners or turn off the ad set because it's not giving us the profitability that we want. And that's how we optimize. So every week we launch at least one new batch, and over time we will find winners, and then we promote those winners into this other campaign here so that it can get more spend behind it and scale the ad account. Now, lesson number 4 taps into how to actually do the creative testing and how you're able to get this workflow and the structure to work for your ad account. Now, when you do testing here, it's very important that every new batch follows this principle that we have. Now, how we think about creative testing and how we actually execute it is essential to actually get this workflow to produce winning and scalable ads. So every time we have a new batch, we have a rule in Strand Media that 50% of the ads that we launch should be iterations of the best performing ads in the ad account, but the other 50% should be something that we haven't tested before, and that's what we call big swings. So that can often be some research based on competitors or something we're seeing in the market where we're testing a big swing. That means an ad that is something totally new that we haven't tested before. And that is how we're sometimes able to find winners that are doing way better than any of the other ads in the account. And that's how you constantly improve and get creative diversity. That is not just iterations of the same thing over and over again. It's actually something brand new that will give you brand new results as well. So that's essentially the workflow that we use, and I would highly recommend that you do the same. Always have at least a percentage of budget allocated to something that is totally new, that you never tested before, because that's the only way you're going to get results that you never gotten before. Now, lesson number 5 taps into the power of having this structure run for a very long time. And that's also why I call it the evergreen structure, because this setup can just run for months and years at a time. We never need to turn off these 2 campaigns. They can continue to run and improve over time. And we see again and again that the accounts that we manage and the businesses and advertisers that I consult with that get the best results are the ones that have this evergreen setup run for a very, very long time. The beauty of this setup is that we're constantly testing new things and we never need to turn off any of these campaigns. These are evergreen campaigns. All of the ads within these campaigns, they can just run for months and years at a time. And with the scaling campaign, as you can see here, this one has been running for a very, very long time. And that's how we were able to get it to the point where we can scale it and take this business from 5 to 7 figures. Now, as you can see, this scaling campaign has been running for a very long time. And so far this year, we have not turned it off a single time. And as you can see, that turns into a 247% increase in sales so far this year compared to the same period last year. And we haven't even gotten into Q4, which is where this business really thrives. And that is why this evergreen setup works so well. You can have the compounding effect of having all of this data stack on the ad set that you're running with. And that's where the optimization and learning process for Meta happens. So when this ad set and this campaign gathers data for a very long time, you will start to see this exponential increase in results. And that's exactly what we've seen so far for this client and this campaign. Now, if you are a business owner and you found this to be very overwhelming and there's a lot of things to think about here, and you want someone to actually help you take the whole process of creating ads and managing them and doing this whole testing process, then you can click the link in the description of this video to apply to work with me and my team. Best case scenario, we come in and help you and scale your business. Worst case scenario, you have a 15-minute call and we leave you with some valuable advice. Also, if you have any questions to anything I discussed in this video, make sure you leave a comment down below. And if you are subscribed, I will make sure to get back to you very soon to answer your comment. Now again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.